So next up we've got Alice, one of our careers coaches, who's going to talk to us about diversity, and not just your standard, here's what we're going to have from this group of people, but I'm sure she'll give us a lot of insight and a bit more detail into that. So I'm just going to get your slides up, Alice. Round of applause. Woo.
Thank you. So I realized that I'm not going to tell you my story or how I coach and makers. I'm going to talk to you about what diversity really means. So I'm Alice, I'm a coach at Makers. And before we start on what diversity really means, I want to tell you a story. And the story is the story of Vu. Now Vu is one of our apprentices, and I had the pleasure of coaching him last year when I was coaching apprentices. In his first week, Vu tried to sign up to an online service, and he had some troubles doing it. It wasn't working. He would enter his details, and he would get an error. That error was invalid name. Invalid name, like think of what that must make you feel like. Your name is not invalid. I mean, he has been named Vu for decades. That's a terrible user experience. Now, today Vu is working as a dev in LexisNexis, one of the companies we worked with. And I can tell you that no one in his team, or in any team around him really, will ever make that mistake of assuming that a name needs to be more than 2 characters. By his simple presence in the company, just by being there, is making the user experience better. So what is diversity? Well, diversity is the state of a group that has a lot of different types of people. One way to look at diversity is that diversity is variety. In 2016, a study analyzed 20,000 companies in 91 countries, and it found that companies that had more women in executive were more profitable. And that's just one out of the many studies that have proved that diverse teams will take better decisions. And if you think about it, that's logical. Think of a uniform group. They have a similar background, maybe the same degree, the same life experiences, the same reflexes. Face them with a problem. They'll have the same reference, the same habits. They'll probably take a decision pretty fast because they're used to do things one way. The decision will be fast, but it will have the same blind spots too. Now if you think of a varied group, they have different opinions. If they're faced with a problem, they're going to be forced to confront multiple opinions. And if you're forced to confront multiple opinions, you have to consider more facts. You have to argue more. You have to come up with more research. You have to spend more time, and in the end, you have to think more. And that makes stronger decisions. There's another way to look at diversity. Diversity is also representation. In the 1960s, the car industry created the first crash test protocols. This protocol said that we need to use dummies, and those dummies were modeled after the average male. That means that seatbelts were designed to be very safe for men and quite unsafe for women, especially pregnant women. Did you know that female drivers are 47% more likely to be seriously injured in a car crash? Well, that was the 60s, right? The car industry was very male-dominated. Surely they must have fixed it. Did they? Well, in 2011, the first protocol started to say, the new protocol started to say that female crash test dummies were actually required in testing. That's 50 years of unsafe cars for women. And most protocols, even now, still only require them in the passenger seat. When was your car designed? Was it designed before 2011? Did you ever drive it as a woman? So that looks like a large oversight. Sometimes it's more subtle. If we think back of the story of Vue at the start, the engineers never meant to exclude Vue or anyone who had a two-letter name. And I'm sure those car engineers were not thinking of excluding women. They just had blind spots, as we all do, because we live one life, we have one experience, and we base our decisions on that. And this is why when you design a product for people, your team shouldn't look like this. Your team should represent, to some extent, your user base, because that's how you're gonna have less blind spots. That's how you're gonna be able to care for all users. All right. So diverse teams, we've seen, take better decisions, and they also bring about better user experience. And I'm sure we're all convinced of the importance of diversity. I'm sure if you're here, you do want more diversity. And yet we're not here yet. So what are we doing wrong? Well, I want to talk a little bit about the way we hire. And before being a technical coach at Facebook Makers, I was a software engineer for 8 years, and I had the opportunity of doing a lot of interviewing and hiring. I interviewed more than 150 candidates for software engineering roles. All right, let's look at 4 candidates. You want to hire someone, and here are 4 candidates that come your way. A, B, C, and D are things or skills that the candidates may be bringing to the table. You want to hire just one person. Who do you hire? A? Or one? Yeah, one. Why not? Not a bad choice. Both 1 and 2 show the most skills, the most things to bring to the table. That makes sense. You're selecting the best individual out of the group. Now, what if you wanted to hire 2 people? Who do you hire? All right, so I hear a few things here and there, and there are 2 ways to look at this, right? You could go for the 2 best individuals. These 2 individuals are the ones that perform best on your hiring test, both of them. But if you go that route, aren't you creating a better team? At the end of the day, people don't work alone. They work in teams. They work together. If you go to the first case, these people will probably get up to speed very fast, and they will probably communicate very well. But where are you getting your innovation from? If you go with this, they have an extra opportunity, which is teaching each other, learning from each other. At the end of the day, you may get a team that has people even better than the 2 first people you were considering. And that's what diversity really is. It's selecting people who have different strengths, different perspective, because they're going to complete each other. Many hiring systems are biased, right? People will judge future performance of a candidate based on what already exists in the company. So let's say that most of the top performers in your company have gone through Oxbridge. Then you probably have a bias for Oxbridge in your hiring pipeline because it has been proven to work. It makes sense, it's logical. But aren't you getting more of the same if you do that? Aren't you just hiring people who will get the same mindset and the same references? Again, where will your innovation come from? Who will challenge the assumptions? And who will point out the blind spots? If you think of diversity as a bonus, on top of the traditional criteria for selecting your candidates, you're not reaping the benefits of diversity. You want different mindsets, you want different life experiences. Diversity is not about hiring people with the same degree and background, but just happen to be women or black. You're missing the point. Diversity is about embracing difference. It's about understanding that value comes from that difference itself. So if I'm leaving you with one thing today, is that diversity shouldn't be about meeting quotas or having more female on the team or a better representation of your user base. It's not about doing this on top of selecting performing teams as you usually do. Diversity is what creates performing teams. Diversity brings its own value. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So now open up the floor for questions. And I forgot to say this before, but if you could just say your name before, just so that we can address you politely. So any questions?
Yes. Hello, I'm Jackie.
Hi.
So in terms of the recruitment process that you have, so the challenges that we have at MMT is that people want to help temps, right? Of course they do, they want the best. So how do you try and change that mindset? It's a very difficult question, so sorry if you can't answer it. But how do you try and change that mindset or encourage people that actually don't need to tick A, B, and C, they can tick B, D, and F and have a multiple pool of different people to meet all your needs? That was a very long question, sorry.
Can you maybe do the same talk to them?
And have you found that works? Or anybody, maybe, if you can't answer, I don't know what anyone else's experiences are.
It was really interesting your A and the D person, because I do think that, so we have in mind diversity as being gender basis. We're 38% tech women in my company. And that has been brought up by actually being open-minded with unconscious bias as well. So the diversity brings its own value. We have created that as a very, very important. Not just, it's also on the mindset. So we're trying, I'm trying to make the barrier of the next diversity item, which is ageism, because we're a startup and ageism is one of the big issues, because unfortunately they want younger people, between an older person and a younger person, they will choose, they still unconsciously bias on ageism. But that diversity, I would say, the younger the generation, they don't have it as much. And it's more potentially your older hiring managers that needs to understand what is the value of it. And if you bring them to, I don't know how big is your company, but to meet with the cultural, multicultural, diverse teams and have a talk about how they work and how they operate and what value they get out of it, actually will bring them all together. Or otherwise, do like we have decided to do this here, and send them to women in technology conferences, male and female. Thank you.
Thank you, that's great to have an answer from the audience as well. I'd really encourage that. So if anyone else has wants to contribute, please do. Yes. Could you also say where you're from as well, your company? Thank you.
Thanks very much. Matthew at Credit Suisse. Just offering another view to the excellent question that was there in terms of how do you open up the view of diversity. We struggled for this for quite some time. We've obviously focused on the gender side of things and various areas that on paper diversity looks to address. But you make a very good point as to how you persuade people to actually do it. We went to the extremes of partnering with an autism charity to challenge neurodiversity. So we actually have apprenticeships for people with autism, and that view that you had up there in terms of ticking those boxes just doesn't apply when you go into the realms of neurodiversity. And it's been an incredible journey for us in terms of putting people with autism into teams and seeing them perform so highly and changing people's views of, I need to rip this up, I can't just tick boxes. So you've got to get creative, there's different ways to do it, etc. So it's great to hear that so many people are thinking about it in that way.
Fantastic, thank you.
It's Claire from the UK. It might be a question more for you guys at the back. How do makers in your kind of recruitment process try and address diversity?
That's a really good question.
It's quite a big one, sorry.
Yeah, so we work with pretty much all of our hiring partners on this because it's something that's very important to the people we work with. There's a number of different areas that we work with our partners on. Some of it is like the branding and where you reach out to, the partnerships that you have, the community that you build. So we have a lot of partners with various coding groups that we introduce our hiring partners to. Then there's the job description. There's so many things on a job description that most job descriptions are just copied from the last one that was made. So the job descriptions that many companies use today are the same ones that were used like 5 or 10 years ago, and they say things like must have 5 years of experience in Java, for example. And I'll always challenge our partners on that and say, how many of your developers in your team didn't have 5 years of Java when you came into the team? And so many say, oh, loads of them don't. Well, why do you have it in a job description then? Most people who've got 5 years of Java experience are men. So, and then there's the hiring process itself, looking at unconscious bias and the way that the process is run. And there's loads of things there that can be done as well. So I'm happy to chat afterwards and discuss it.
Thanks, Emily. Anyone else with a question for the floor or anyone at Makers? No? Okay, can we have another round of applause, please, for Alex?